Safeway and King Soopers get merger blocked in court, a win for unions in Colorado who said it would cost customers more. Denver struggles to deal with problem properties stuck in a so-called doom loop.
I think it looks terrible. I think it says to people visiting our city that we don't care about our city.
Aurora police cover their backsides with a new revelation about what happened in that city 5 months ago. And a neighborhood remembers their goat guy. He made his corner of the city a nicer place to live, and a lot more interesting. That's tonight on Next.
The state of Colorado's attempt to block the Safeway King Soopers mega merger may not matter, because 2 judges in 2 states on the left coast just beat them to it. This afternoon, federal judges in Oregon and Washington issued injunctions against the proposed merger between Kroger, parent company King Soopers, and Albertsons, parent company Safeway. Both judges agreed with what Colorado's Democratic Attorney General has been arguing in court here, that the deal could drive up prices for consumers. If the merger happens, the companies plan to sell off more than 50 Safeway stores around Colorado to a new owner. Attorneys for Kroger and Albertsons told the judge in Colorado they need to merge so that they can compete with Amazon and Walmart. Said if they cannot combine forces, they'll have to close stores and lay off employees. After the rulings today, Kroger said it's reviewing its options. Aurora police are adding a pretty big asterisk to a denial they put out months ago. APD's cover their asterisk move relates to the mass gathering in July, the night of the Venezuelan election. Thousands of people gathered in a shopping center parking lot. Some folks got angry when it was pretty clear that election was stolen, but police denied that there was violence. Well, now here we are 5 months later, and Aurora police are saying there was violence in that area involving Venezuelans that night, but police insist it was unrelated. So let's go back to that night. Police say 3,000 to 4,000 people gathered at the Gardens on Havana, the old Buckingham Square area in Aurora. City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky claimed that mass gathering was a test of the city by a Venezuelan gang. She said there were assaults, thefts, gunshots, including shots fired at a police car. Police disputed Jurinsky's claims the day after the gathering. Police said that they didn't have any reports of injuries and would only say that a police car was hit by a quote-unquote unknown projectile. Fast forward 5 months, and Aurora police are all of a sudden acknowledging there was a shooting nearby where a stray bullet hit a patrol car. APD says that they arrested 3 men in October and November for what they say was a rolling gunfight between vehicles on Havana. 1 person was shot and survived. Aurora police still insist that shooting has nothing to do with the larger gathering, which had broken up about 90 minutes earlier. Jurinsky's made a series of claims about Venezuelan gang activity in Aurora, some of which have been proven accurate. It led President-elect Donald Trump to come to Aurora, falsely claiming the city had been conquered by the migrant gang, and promising to start the largest deportation in American history, right there in Aurora. One of Denver's busiest intersections has an unwanted new art installation thanks to vandals. It illustrates the difficulty the city has in getting control of problem buildings. Here's Mark Salinger.
Thousands of people do have to look at this every day.
The building at 123 Spear Boulevard doesn't have long to live. For a space with so much history, David Wise knows it's waiting for its inevitable death.
Brutalism is the title of the era and the description of this type of architecture.
He's an architect who tried to stop this from happening.
You know, I had to make my presentations to the Landmarks Commission. I had to make my presentations to City Council.
His petition to designate the former Channel 7 building as a historic landmark failed. The news station sold the land to developers for $35 million and moved out in July. The vandals quickly moved in.
I've already grieved. I knew this building was going to be lost. So now it's a matter of how can we as a community in a city think about these things, anticipate these circumstances, and handle them much better.
I think it looks terrible. I think it says to people visiting our city that we don't care about our city.
Denver City Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer has a name for what's happening at Spear and Lincoln.
Yes, so in council offices, we sort of refer to this as the doom loop.
The developers say they won't tear it down until spring of 2025 to make room for a planned apartment building. So until then, the city's used warnings on the doors, health code violations, and a series of small fines to try and get the new owners to care about the once loved building.
The current status is that we have 12 little agencies saying, we'll take this part and we'll take this part and we'll take this part, but no one is information sharing.
The Department of Community Planning and Development fined the owners $1,000 for being on the neglected and derelict buildings list. That fine has since grown to a maximum of $16,000 since the building hasn't been fixed. The city's Permitting and Licensing Center shows another $455 fine issued after people broke inside. The developer says they've added security, sealed the doors, and are working on getting rid of the graffiti.
If we have ordinances that are not being properly enforced, let's enforce them. If we have penalties and fees that are too low, let's increase them.
A building once so full of life, now quickly becoming an eyesore.
You just want it to go better the next time.
Councilmember Sawyer tells me she is hoping to introduce a measure next year that would fine developers and owners $1,000 each time that first responders have to come to an abandoned building. Right now, the fine structure is the same for a massive developer who just paid $35 million for land, like in this case, or for a homeowner who has, let's say, graffiti outside. Each would get fined $455 like we've seen if the city deems it a nuisance.
So some essentially nuisance fines, but then also arrests in this case, 3 arrests.
Yeah, so Denver police has arrested 3 people for being inside this building, but they weren't actually called to the building to get these people out. Denver police tells me that they were just training inside the abandoned building, doing some training, and happened to run across these 3 people who had just been handed out inside and said, okay, you're under arrest.
That's it.
It's wild.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. And also we learned a new term today. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a doom loop, you know? But that's
We've all been there.
We've all been in doom loops before. Thank you, Mark. Georgetown police are in a doom loop. They don't have a single police officer left in that town. So now the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Office is going to step in to cover patrols. County commissioners approved this setup today. The Sheriff's Office says the police department does not have a single officer left after a series of resignations that followed the shooting death of Christian Glass. The Sheriff's Office is based there in Georgetown. They already provide some services in town. Deputies will now be patrolling 3 days a week. The other 4 days a week, they will bill Georgetown for every after-hours 911 call that they go out on through May. The overthrow of Syria's dictator happened, as Hemingway once wrote, gradually, then suddenly. After a 13-year civil war, a 10-day surge led rebels into Damascus and sent Bashar al-Assad fleeing to Russia. Our Jaleesa Arizari spoke with Syrians in Colorado and experts watching that country to gauge their hopes and expectations.
Most restaurants are rooted in routine.
Around 12 or so, it's when it starts picking up.
Obeid Cafo's Family Eatery in downtown Denver is no different.
We used to hang this poster up.
But today, they stray from the standard.
We took it down because it was like, we're free now. It's weird.
Over the weekend, Syrian rebel forces were able to overthrow their dictator, President Bashar al-Assad. For years, Assad clung to power through violence and torture. For many Syrians, Sunday was filled with celebration. That included Cafo.
Oh, man.
His parents left Syria 36 years ago, and he lost 2 uncles during the war.
I don't know why I'm emotional. They're free and they're happy for the first time in a very, very long time.
The fall put an end to a 50-year reign and a decade-long civil war. But what happens next?
It's really, really unclear.
Is something Dr. Betsy Jose is eager to learn. The rebels who toppled Assad are led by a group that the United States and others consider a terrorist organization. Their leader was once tied to al-Qaeda, but has since distanced himself.
And which is one of the reasons why he probably has made these gestures of moderation and toleration, and why he has broken with al-Qaeda. But again, it's unclear whether anybody really believes that. And so, you know, it's unclear how trusting the U.S. will be moving forward.
Cafo gets why some are reluctant.
I don't blame anybody's concerns. People have the right to be concerned, but people can grow. People can change.
Change is what Cafo and so many others are hoping for. While their restaurant life is filled with regimen, they hope their world doesn't have to be.
Syrians are elated. No one will ever take that away from them.
CU Denver foreign affairs expert Dr. Joe says all eyes will be on how this coalition of rebels will keep it together. She says they all have different agendas and different interests, so staying unified may be a challenge. But if they do all get along, it's still unclear how they will govern. Rebel leaders have said they will support religious tolerance and also mentioned there'll be no control on women's clothing.
I'm glad that you went and you caught up with Obed, because I remember when we heard from him years ago during the height of some of the atrocities against the Syrian people, and it's just wonderful to know that he's still well and that he has hope again for his family's country. You know?
Exactly. It's been an emotional roller coaster for his family, right? He still has a lot of relatives that are actually still in Syria. So this has been quite a few days for him, but right now he's incredibly happy.
Julissa Irizarry, thank you. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi has a request for us, just friend to friend. It might seem strange to hear it from the weather guy, but he'd love for us to focus less on how much snow we're getting from each passing storm and consider the case of stuff like last night. Not much snow, big impact anyway.
Oh, all right here, Colorado. I think we need to have a little chat. I'm your friendly neighborhood meteorologist, Chris Bianchi, here from the 9 News Weather Impact Team. Now, last night, Monday evening, and this morning, Tuesday morning, we had a little bit of snow, but we had a lot of impact from that snow. So that brings me to what we should actually be focused on when it comes to snow. And the big question you always have for me as a meteorologist is, how much snow is going to fall at my house? The question that you should really be asking me or Kathy or our entire 9 News Weather Impact team is, when is that snow going to fall? And is it going to be cold enough for it to stick on the roadways? We had not one, but 2 commutes disrupted by just a little bit of snow. Most of the metro area saw less than 2 inches of snowfall, and it made a real mess out on the road. So remember, for the next storm, it's not how much snow is going to fall, it's when is it going to fall, and will it be cold enough to stick to roadways?
A conservative school board in Colorado considers scrapping a high school course on Black history. And we remember the goat guy who helped to transform his neighborhood for the better. Next. Colorado's Ethics Commission says the former head of the state's Democratic Party, close ally of Governor Jared Polis, broke the law. It's illegal for former state employees to get a no-bid state contract within 6 months of leaving a state job. Ethics investigators say Rick Palacio left Governor Polis's office and came back the next day as a private contractor. Now that is a revolving door with some velocity. Watch your fingers. Palacio led the Colorado Democratic Party about a decade ago. During the pandemic, he worked as interim chief of staff for the governor. He then left and came back the following day on a $14,000 a month contract. Colorado's Independent Ethics Commission has ruled that Palacio violated the law, but they did not impose a fine. They said that he didn't use insider information to benefit himself or to create a conflict of interest, because he was doing pretty similar work on behalf of Polis's office when he was on the inside and then when he came right back as a contractor. Tonight, the Douglas County School Board is considering whether to approve an AP African American Studies course for high schoolers. The board's conservative majority postponed the decision last month after getting complaints from parents and advocacy groups. Last month, the board majority said they needed more time to read through the curriculum after community concerns that the course would teach what people thought was critical race theory. The college board says the curriculum, quote, examines the diversity of African American experiences, including contemporary challenges and achievement. This is the first year that course has been available nationwide. It's already been banned or defunded by school boards in Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, and South Carolina.
Our one-day snow and ice event is coming to a close. We're embarking upon a warming and drying weather trend that will leave us with better roads for the commute tonight and for your commute tomorrow morning. Started off cold, DIA 11 degrees this morning. Not as cold downtown, but cold enough to put down a layer of ice that didn't go very far, with temperatures in the 30s, below the average of 44 degrees. We're still just above the freezing mark, but with that cloud deck out there, we'll see temperatures be a little bit milder than what we saw last night. The wind, a big part of our weather story, gusts to 30 miles per hour over some of the higher passes, and that will be a trend that will continue tomorrow as well. So a cold night for Denver, but this is ahead of a warming and drying trend that'll see us right into the weekend. We're on the western fringe of an Arctic front separating milder air from cold and snow, and that trend will continue for the next couple of days. The only advisories for snow and travel are in Wyoming, and we have very little in the way of snow shower activity left over. We've got some high clouds coming in the afternoon after a very chilly overnight period, but not as cold as last night. Sunshine and 51 tomorrow, 52 on Thursday, 50s right into the weekend. Tracking a Thursday storm and chance for mountain snow, but Denver stays dry.
Tonight we remember a Coloradan who planted literal seeds of change in his neighborhood. And a reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night, same time, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus. And Next is now a podcast each weeknight. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. We often talk here about work with purpose, work that makes a difference. Volunteering can leave the same kind of mark, like the green thumbprints all over the Barnum neighborhood in Denver, thanks to a man now being remembered by his neighbors.
Here we're in the Lowell Street Community Garden, just across the alleyway from the Barnum Food Forest. These are two conjoined Denver urban garden sites that have been here for decades. I'm Creighton Hoffeditz. I'm the Director of Food Forests for Denver Urban Gardens. For over 20 years in different capacities, the garden leader here was Curtis Keel. He would always say he wasn't a gardener, but he created the space for people to thrive, growing food and growing community in all kinds of ways. This is the Barnum Food Forest, and he would always help with leading school groups here, doing other volunteer work days, incorporating some different plants over time, and helping to coordinate community events. This is private property of a neighbor who worked out an agreement with Curtis where he managed goats here. Curtis would take them on walks around the neighborhood regularly. Curtis had dealt with a variety of health issues that went up and down over the past number of years. A couple of weekends ago, he passed away overnight at his home. While it was not expected, it was something that caught all of us a little bit by surprise because he seemed to have been in relatively good health recently. But there's just no replacing the sort of personality that he was. I couldn't imagine a more fitting legacy for someone to leave behind than a space that's as unique and vibrant as this one.
Keel had been at that Lowell Street Garden almost every day since it opened in 1997. We return with your feedback next. Feedback tonight from Linda, who says just moved to Colorado this summer and Next might be our favorite thing about it. Oh, Linda, that is so. Oh, she says, well, okay, maybe top 5. All right, we've taken the liberty of putting together Linda's top 5 Colorado likes. We just snuck in there at number 5. That's where Next is. 4, elections are more fun with zany errors by the Secretary of State. Number 3, legal weed and legal magic mushrooms. Number 2, gazing into Lucifer's eyes and briefly drifting out of your lane on Pena. And the number 1 thing Linda likes about Colorado, there it is, 9 News at 10. How about that, Linda? Thanks for joining us for Next, newcomer Linda's 5th favorite thing about living in this beautiful state. We'll see you next time.